So I'm just going to do a series of videos and see how the world takes it. Kind of like an overview of what an instance looks like, a very simple instance. I'll start by initiating the download of Googling. So this is microsoft.com/en-us/sql-server/sql-server-downloads. I'm going to put it in the chat and also in the description of the video. So you probably see here are the tools, SQL Server tools that you can use to interact with SQL Server. The most popular of them is by far the SQL Server Management Studio. I'm just going to initiate a download of that in the background while I show you into our own instance. All right, so download SSMS. If you want to get to know more about Management Studio, you can read through. The current version is 19.3, and as you can see here, Azure Data Studio is automatically installed alongside SSMS. Alongside Azure Data Studio is a more recent tool that is used with SQL Server as well as with other data-oriented platforms. There is a whole article, an article that we have about that, where you can learn more of what Data Studio really is. Okay, so let me go over to my cloud environment. This is Amazon Web Services, and here I have an RDS instance. RDS stands for Relational Database Service, that is provided by Amazon Web Services, AWS, and we are going to actually log into our RDS instance that is sitting in AWS using our SQL Server Management Studio, which we are now downloading. So we have two instances here. Both of them are SQL Server Express, that is basically the free edition of SQL Server, slightly different instance sizes, right? And you can see they are not very much in use. So we're going to go deeper into this one, the second one, which is the larger instance. It's going to perform better when we interact with it visually. So there are two things I can do. I can either simply download SQL Server Management Studio and log in directly from my laptop, or I can go into an Amazon EC2 instance where I have already installed SQL Server Management Studio, and there use the studio in my server to log in. So this is the configuration of my RDS instance. So what I'm going to do in order to save us time is basically to log in to this instance from an AWS EC2 instance. EC is Elastic Compute version 2. Now if you look at here, this is the endpoint for my instance. What it means is that this is the identity by which I can access this instance. It's a relational database instance, which means it's something called platform as a service. The underlying server infrastructure where this instance of SQL Server was installed is not under my control, but I can actually access the SQL Server instance using this endpoint, this identity of the instance that allows me to log in using any tool that can access SQL Server instances. And you also see the port 1433, which is the default port of SQL Server from time immemorial. Here we also see where my instance is sitting, US East 1A. We see the VPC or Virtual Private Cloud, where it's sitting, the subnet associated with that instance, and so forth. All right, and there's a lot you can just get by looking at this, looking at the properties of this instance, but I'm just going to skip all that and then go ahead and log into the instance. I'll go back here and I'll launch my EC2 dashboard. my EC2 dashboard gives me an overview of all the EC2 instances that I have configured within my space, and I'll be able to basically connect to this one. In order to connect, I'm going to use an RDP client. There is another video where I have detailed how to create EC2 instances, how to connect with them. I'm going to also put it in the description of this video. So the first thing, if you've not done this connected before, is basically you download a remote desktop file. Download a remote desktop file which allows you to open up an interface for doing an RDP, using remote desktop protocol, right? So I'm going to just connect to this EC2 instance, which is a Windows box. I'm going to get prompted for my credentials, but of course, because I've logged in before, I'm probably not going to need to upload my certificates again, my private keys again. And yes, we're going in, we're getting into the box, see the details, the names of the EC2 instance. Okay, all right, so here we are. You will observe that I've already logged in here actually. So I'm just going to log off from the existing instances, and then so I can show you how to do that login. I'm just going to close everything, close my SQL Server Management Studio here. I'm not going to save anything, and I'm going to show you that first of all, remember I am inside my EC2 instance. I'm inside there. I have an installation, a version of SQL Server Management Studio installed here. So when I open it up, I'm going to be asked for a few things. Number one, I'm going to be asked for this name of the server I want to connect to. This is where I provide my instance name. All right, I have this already saved here because I saved the connection details. I also, so I can connect, I have the username, the password, and I'm using SQL authentication. The alternative is Windows authentication, Active Directory Universal with MFA, and so forth. You can have conversations around all this, but I'll probably also put in some articles that indicate what each of these authentication methods mean. Because I have selected to remember my password, I have this already stored here. Obviously, this is not advised in a production environment because you don't want unauthorized access into your SQL Server instance. This is the server name for one of my instances. Once I do connect, I'm able to get into the instance. I can actually connect to another instance right from the studio. Now, this is the RDS dashboard. So I've copied the endpoint name and I'm going to use it. Now I can go into the configuration of my instance to pick up details such as my credentials. At the point at which I created this instance, I indicated my username, my master username, my master password, and that is basically what I'm going to use. Important. If you've forgotten that, probably the best thing would be to click the modify button and then come back and change that, generate a new master password. I'm just going to do that for the purpose of showing you how to do it and then being able to connect for this session. I'm using a simple password. I hope that will be accepted. There are so many other configurations you could play around with here. I'm just going to say, yeah, modify DB instance, apply immediately. Going back to my remote desktop session, I put in my password, my credentials for this other instance, right? I hope I got that right. And I am 1, 2, 3. All right. So when you get this error, a network related or instance specific error occurred while establishing a connection to SQL Server. The server was not found or is inaccessible. The error 53. What that typically means is that, of course, error 40 would not open a connection to SQL Server. Network was not found. Error 40, error 53. What it typically means is that this my server, my EC2 instance, it cannot reach this instance, this SQL Server instance over the network. That will typically be because there's a port being there's a firewall blocking the communication over port 1433. So on AWS, what I have to do is to check essentially which security groups this instance belongs to, and whether my EC2 instance is allowed to it's in the same security group, or is allowed to talk to entities in that security group. The whole conversation around VPC security groups is a big conversation. We'll not go into it in this session, but one of the things I'll just go over, look at my databases. First of all, look at my article DB, which I successfully connected to, and notice that the security group in which this DB is different from that which the other instance sits in. So I'm going to change the security group of the other instance, right? Going back to my database dashboard, go back to SQL RDS 01, and then I will do another modify. I'll do another modify, and I will change the security group of this particular instance so that I can connect from my jump server. I believe it's this one. Yeah, so take away the default. That's it. Modify. Now there's this, when you click on the continue button for modifying a setting on the RDS instance, you either have the opportunity of applying it during the next scheduled window or applying immediately. When I apply, I want to apply immediately because I want to demonstrate the connection right now. So I just do that, and then the instance will likely be started, and then it's modified. I'm going to go back to my instance and attempt the connection again. So once I'm able to adjust the right security groups, which I showed earlier. All right, so you can see that based on the way SQL Server works, or basically based on the way SQL Server Management Studio works, right? I can actually connect to multiple instances of SQL Server on the same SQL Server Management Studio interface. That shows you that the tool, the client tool, SQL Server Management Studio, is different from the database instance. What we are looking at is management tool. The SQL Server instance itself is sitting on a server somewhere. Is a server-side installation sitting somewhere. And here, just a quick look at the Object Explorer pane shows you the what do you call it, the hierarchy of objects from the instance. Within the instance, we have a list of databases. Within this database object or group, we have several databases sitting in one instance of SQL Server. Within each database has its own collection of objects, whether it's tables, views, indexes, and so forth. This is AdventureWorks, the old sample database that was offered by Microsoft. These are the sample tables inside the sample database, and so forth. So this tells you the way SQL Server is built. Now here we also see that we have the same for each and every instance we can connect to. This instance could be sitting on a completely different server. So that means that the instance of SQL Server I'm connected with on this EC2 instance, where my SQL Server Management Studio is not necessarily sitting on the same box. So I can have my Management Studio, which is my client tool, on one server or one client, or on my computer or my laptop, and my instances will be in somewhere far away, because it's just a client tool. It's just a client tool that allows me to access the instance. So I hope this begins to make sense, and I still hope it's useful. I left doing SQL Server quite a while ago, So many things have changed. So if you got to this point, then you deserve for me to tell you to give me your feedback and tell me whether it's worth it making other videos. There are so many things we could talk about in terms of what SQL Server can do, and we can go on and on to explore the instance and explore what is possible within SQL Server itself. So tell me whether it's worth it, and then I'll see whether I'll make future videos. Thank you.